Okay, and we're back for the end of the league with my drowned rats. Now, getting into these last series of games, it's important to note first that we did have someone pull out of the league, gave me a bye round, which importantly got my injured players back on the pitch, and gave out some free experience, which got my blitzer guard and one of my line rats block, both very good skills. But that leads straight into Game 5, Rats v Rats. Well, the biggest summary of this one is I just got outscavened. Ended up being a 2-3 loss for me, but at least it was a fairly bloodless game. More emphasis on the ball. Works for me. Lets me go into the next one, maintaining no injuries. A really important part of our strategy. Now, Game 6 versus Vampires. Now, this guy is undefeated in the league and very highly rated. And I certainly wasn't taking that winning streak away from him. Unfortunately, this is where we finally suffered our first death in the team. Unfortunately, also being a rat with a skill. Being pro, which he never did get to use too much. But, what it is. On the upside, though, one of our rats did finally get some mutations. Tentacles. Used them oddly frequently on a gutter runner. And, I just love the model. Brilliant. This was, unfortunately, a 0-3 loss. So we sort of hit into a losing streak here. But that is what it is. Game 7 versus Halflings. This is the introduction of my rat ogre here. Not overly impressed. He spent a lot of the time being stupid. Just sitting on his back and refusing to get back up. I did suffer a lot in this game from the Halfling Chef stealing my rerolls, which basically just cost me turns early on with bad luck that I couldn't mitigate. Just unfortunately, it's a part of the game I just don't care for. And I don't even mind so much that they got more rerolls. It's just I don't like the turnover mechanic, and the way you get around that is with rerolls, and I just didn't have that option. But what do you do? This particular game also sort of highlighted the skill gap between, the good players and the people just casually messing around like myself. But back on the game. I did have a hard time just getting the ball back out of the cage from the Halflings, as though we did have one spectacular run at the end. Turned out to be my only goal. And ended in a 3-1 loss. But things are looking up. We still haven't suffered hugely in the way of dead rats, so we can carry on. Okay, Game 8. Now we're back onto someone of a similar skill level, so I thought it was a much more fun game. My opponent used his rerolls early, which did result in him not having them later in the turn, which he paid the price for. Now this did end in a 3-0 my way, so at least we broke that losing streak, which was nice. And finally, our Game 9 of the league versus Blackhawks. Another very hard match for me, trying to break the ball out of his cage. Now, I did have a lot of good luck fouling his players, giving me a real heavy number advantage. And so he still managed to score a touchdown in the second half. I ended up responding with a touchdown on literally the last turn for a 1-1 tie. Now, this was the last game of the league, so I was playing a bit more recklessly. We did finally lose a gutter runner, but I also don't mind so much because I don't need him for the next game. Now, as for final thoughts, obviously I was playing pretty casually, just doing things for the fun of it, such as hitting random on my skills, which led to some fun things, but also led to some non-optimal choices. I think I'm trying to separate my thoughts on the game from just versing really good opponents. But one of my biggest catches was people caging the ball and not actually trying to score. They'll just sit there with it and try and kill my team. Now, I understand tactically why they're doing it. I don't think they're tactically wrong for doing it, but I just don't find it fun. Like, I picked a team like Skaven because I want to play the ball, I want to move around, and I think if I'm playing a sports game, I want to play that sport. If we're just going to kill each other, I think there's games that do it much better and still in an interesting fashion. Now, I don't much care for the turnover mechanic, as I said earlier, but there'd be a major rewrite of the rule set and how the game plays to fix that, so I don't expect anything to change. Overall, pretty happy that I did play in the league. Gave me an excuse to actually use these models and paint most of them. I saw a few important ones like my thrower I never did get to finish, and even my captain who did actually mutate an extra arm I forgot to mention earlier, so he never used it. I also had a gutter runner get an extra head, which I didn't get around to printing a updated version of, but he did get a lot of use out of that. With the end of this league, there probably won't be another one for at least the rest of the year, maybe starting up early next year. I haven't decided if I will play again or not yet. It's a commitment for a few weeks. I have to see sort of how my life and how my schedule is when they have it going. As for what I'd play, obviously likely to just reset my Skaven from straight and, do some better skill choices this time. And if we do change, maybe I've been lining off some Toon Kings to print out. Again, mostly as a hobby project. They're a fair bit different from what I've been playing here. And not normally my style, but at least it's fairly cheap to buy the STLs and just print them. So it's not a huge monetary investment and only a few weeks of playing them if I really do hate them. But overall, I can see why the game survived so long, as though I don't think it will become one of my top games. Certainly, I think it's worth giving a try if you ever get the chance. Forgot as well to mention with my own performance. With the app we were using, I actually ended up ranked 41st Skaven in Australia, which I was quite happy with given just how silly I was doing. So, for much as I was saying I was mucking around and there were much better players than me, and there were, I'm not disappointed with my own performance in these games. So, for now, that's me, Captain Steel, signing out.